There we are. So, welcome everybody to a wonderful night to celebrate the book launch with this marvellous woman, Janette Mckeague, and her wonderful new book. Here it is. We have Good Girl Sesky, The Dynamic Dream Horse and Me by Janette Mckeague. And we're going to have great fun chatting all about Sesky, and we can actually see the picture behind you then, Janette, that we've got her sitting. She's joined us tonight as well. So first of all, can I say congratulations?
Thank you.
And how does it feel then to be a published author?
Oh, I don't know. I think it's still sinking in yet, but just totally amazing that it's actually came true. Everything's been amazing from the start.
We're so delighted for you. Absolutely. It has been a joy to work with you.
Thank you.
You too. We've had a lot of fun, a lot of laughs along the way as you've been writing and publishing this book. All right, right. Wasn't it somebody's mic was on? So I'll just make sure we'd muted them. That was it.
That's my young brother.
Oh, that's
joined us.
Right, we've muted him then. You're not. Muting them again. Now we are. So. Welcome to those of you who've just joined and maybe here to one of Indie Authors' book launches for the first time. I'm going to be doing tonight. My name's Mckeague, and I have the pleasure of working with lots of amazing writers and helping make their dreams come true, like this. So tonight we're going to be chatting about your journey, about your story, getting some insight into the world of Janette and the world of Sesky, of course, and all that went on. For those of you who are watching, it has been recorded, so you can come back and watch it again later if you've missed out something. But you can also ask questions in the chat box. So if you want to pose a question for us, then put it in the chat. I'll keep a little eye on that as well, and we'll see if we can answer questions as we're going along. And towards the once we've kind of had a good bit of a chat, we'll also, if we get a chance, open up the mic and let some people ask you something. I know that, and if Paul can stay till a little bit later, I know he's always keen to kind of get so, maybe he can ask some stuff. And as that has been a horsey man, I'm sure that he'll be extra here tonight. So as we said, here we have Good Girl Sesky, and I'm going to read you, just to whet everybody's appetite, I'm going to read you the blog then about the book. So this is an inspiring story of true friendship. A horse is the perfect combination of beauty, grace and power. For Janette Mckeague, Sesky was so much more than that. She was a friend. In this book, Janette tells the story of their time together, the joy of competing in cross-country, show jumping and a little dressage, and the birth of Sesky's foals as Janette's own family grew. The pleasure of riding across the countryside, enjoying the beauty and companionship of a true friend, and finally Sesky's passing aged 32. This is a book that will appeal not only to those who love horses, but those that love a story of friendship that abided through the years. And as an added bonus, there's a little section on how to look after your own horse and pony too. So there we are. If I could just ask if people can keep their mics muted just while we're going on, because otherwise we get a lot of background noise and it can be a little difficult sometimes for people to hear. So there you are. Amazing. What a story. Can I say I absolutely loved this book. I loved reading it. I know that you and I spoke quite a little while ago when you first started talking about publishing it. But actually taking time to come back and read it once. I like to come back to books when they're actually there in book form, because it's different from working with a manuscript and looking at that. And I absolutely loved this story. Not that I wasn't surprised at all that I absolutely loved it. I'm not necessarily a horse person. And that's what I mean. That's why I think this book is not just for people who love horses. I mean, you will absolutely love it if you love horses, but it's so much more than that. And it's a real testament, I think, to to your story, to your strengths, and your determination. And we're going to delve into a little bit of that tonight, and find out a little bit more about you. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So first of all, Janette, tell us a little bit about how did you actually get involved with horses? Because it wasn't something that you had done as a child, really.
No, it was really strange because when I was young, obviously being in a big family, we couldn't afford things like that, like riding lessons. My sister actually, just one of my older sisters, I've got four brothers, 3 sisters, but one of my sisters used to go riding with her friend, and I always wished I could ride and have a pony when I was young, but never thought anything. And then when I was married and had my daughter, she was 3.5, and she was always on her little rocking horse, like really going like on the horse, like loving it. And as she got to about 4, she always kept wanting a pony. We just got her involved in riding lessons, and then by maybe she was 4.5, we decided that we were going to buy her a little pony. Goodness knows where that came from. And then because I bought her the pony, I then decided, goodness, I don't know a thing about horses or ponies, and I would need to learn and get involved in them to try and help her to look after it. So it was just totally, it just fell upon me.
And that, so from that decision to get your daughter a pony, it really kind of went somewhere else.
Got her a pony in the May, and she was only, as I say, like 4.5. By the time she was 5, she was competing and like show jumping. But that Christmas, the very first Christmas, is when I got my first horse, Minstrel, the one that I had for about 1.5 years, and that was a total surprise. And then that led me on to getting Sesky as my second horse.
So, and I mean, Sesky was just, an amazing, and I'm absolutely wasn't it? So what was it that attracted you to her then when you bought her? What was it about her? Was it a character, or was it how did it come about that you got her?
When I got her, actually she was bought for me. So she was my second horse for me to progress on, and I wanted to just try and achieve more. And she was just in a field with loads of horses, and the lady that owned her at the time just kind of used to go in the field beside them and play about with them, do their mains and everything. So Sesky was brought for me, and when I first seen her, I was just totally attached to her from that minute when I seen her, not knowing what the future would bring.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I'm just getting a message for somebody asking how did they get in. They hadn't got the tickets. That's why I'm a bit distracted there. Sending that there. Hopefully she'll get in. So yeah, and that's the thing. She's just an amazing horse, but she was quite a character, wasn't she?
Oh, she was a dragon to begin with. The amount of times she dropped me in the ground and put me off and took off with me and everything was like, through all the time, I don't know how I was going to manage, but I was just determined I was going to crack it with her. I think some days it was willpower against willpower.
And that's certainly what came across, that if she didn't want to do something...
Oh, she wouldn't. No, not at all.
So were you like then in character, do you think? Is that...
I would say, yeah. My mum was German as well, so I think the wee bit of stubbornness comes maybe from my mum's side as well. But with Sesky and it was like, I knew as I got to know her, I thought, well, I'm going to win this today with you, but she would win as well in her own way. So at the end, I would say it was a joint effort, and we accomplished it in the end.
Yeah, because you do describe in the book, lots of instances where she's deciding, or you're having to try and kind of manoeuvre her in certain ways, or get around and figure out how to kind of get her to go and do what it is that you're wanting to do. So John's just asking, yes, actually, John, everyone is muted. We've muted everybody's mics so that hopefully you can hear, but it's just that we don't want your mic to be open, because otherwise we can hear all the noise that's going on in the background. So with Sesky and her, her strength and determination and all of that. She was quite young though when she came to you at first.
She was just rising, 4 years old when I got her. she had only been backed and broken.
Probably why, because the meeting's being recorded.
She was just backed and broken when I got her, maybe 7 weeks prior to her coming to me, and she'd been in the field because obviously she was still in with the young one. She'd had a foal as well when she was just over 3. So, but she was quite green. She'd been sat on to be broken, but that was about it.
So here you are, still quite a novice rider.
Totally. Yes.
And then with a fairly it's a novice horse then, I suppose, as well.
Yes. Everybody kept saying to me as well, because the lady that I knew in the riding school that I went to, and she kept saying, oh, you're far too inexperienced to have a green horse. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'll try this. And I used to see her every so often. But it was the first horse I had was just so good. And like you could say, although there's not a bomb-proof horse, you could say it was nearly bomb-proof. But he taught me a lot. So I had that kind of base to work with Sesky. But oh, she was a shock when I first sat on her. It was like horrendous.
Yeah, you do describe kind of being hanging on for grim death almost. She's taken off. So, so how did you then manage to kind of win her trust? You know, what do you think it was that really helped the two of you to bond?
I think it was just obviously my friend Iona. She was with me right from the start. She was on the yard where my daughter's pony was, and Iona had been helping my daughter with her pony, giving her lessons, because she's an instructor. And as I say, she was a nurse, and that was handy when I fell off in case I hurt myself. But Iona started giving me lessons with her, and she would help at the hard parts, and then I would work between with Sesky, you know, in between the lessons. And I think it was just sheer determination that I was going to try and get this to work, because I wasn't willing to give up, but neither was Sesky. So, but I think it was just taking the time and the effort and just getting the understanding to find what buttons made her work, type thing.
Yeah. And I think that's what really struck me, was, you know, like how her character, and you know, the two of you then just really kind of you absolutely then bonded when you did get that, you know, that, I suppose, the initial, right, okay, you're going to do what I want. It's a bit, I suppose it's a bit like having a child, really, isn't it? You know,
definitely.
I mean, we want our children to be strong and independent, just not when they're 2-year-old, you know. So
that was like Sesky. She would come out of her stable, and she would have these wee like temper tantrums, you could call it, the same as children. And I would just sit on her and say, okay, just on you go for 5-10 minutes. And then once she settled down, then it was time to do a bit of work with her. But if you try to fight against her or make her do something, then she was 10 times worse. So you just let her have a wee tantrum, and then she was quite happy work away after that.
That burst of energy, let that energy. So you know, kind of going forward a little bit, I suppose. So you know, you're saying owning a horse, you know, isn't a cheap thing, and you were also then juggling, you know, your children and having to
3 of them,
3 children, looking after the horse. Your daughter still had her pony.
Yes, all the way through.
And so, you know, I just kind of laughed when I thought, so the next step for you just seemed to be that absolutely rational step. We'll just buy a farm then. You know,
well, it was kind of paying a lot of money as well for livery with a horse and pony. And obviously the travelling, because we lived at the other side of the city, so it was over an hour travelling every day. And the children would do their work in the back of the car, their homework, then go to the farm to do the pony and the horse. And then it was all the time travelling, and it was just a lot of time and effort and money. So in the end of it, with at the time the situation we were in, we were able to get our own farm, and it was lovely. Roll out of bed and you're right beside the horse. Even that was amazing. Like, never thought that would ever happen. So that made a huge difference in time as well.
And that's what, you know, you describe exactly the best part about being able to see them, you know, actually see her, you know, just as she would watch you and you would watch her almost every day. So
because Sesky's stable at the time was right opposite the farm cottage, like in the courtyard. It was old stables, it tells you about it in the book. So as soon as I came out the door, there was no escaping her, because she would have her head right out the window and she'd be neighing at me. But then again, if she wasn't there, I'd be like, Sesky, and then she would neigh. So there's no getting out the door to do anything apart from Sesky first. So that was the routine. She always get done first.
Yep, yep.
But it was so nice.
Yeah, just like I said, just having her just literally on your doorstep. That was
yeah, that was amazing. And again, a dream that I never thought would happen, you know, to have her beside me all the time. And through all her years, just apart from maybe the odd wee bit at the end, like she was always with me all the time, and it was great. Because during the day I could do my work and then just go by her and ride her, you know. It was super. Yeah, super.
So the farm, though, then developed to, I mean, way beyond just having your horses, you know.
Yeah, the idea was just to get the farm for my horse, my daughter's pony, and then we decided, my oldest son, why not get a wee pony for him to try riding, but he never ever took to it. And then through time, with having land and all the outbuildings, then I started thinking about a riding school, which was never on the cards. And then a few years later, we developed to a livery yard first of all, but because I wanted to do the riding school and then a trekking centre, the liveries just didn't kind of work in with the school. So it turned into a riding school, which I had for 20 odd years. Wow. So that again was just, it all developed just through this phase of having a horse.
And that's the thing, the bit that I really loved about reading the story and knowing your story is all of these things that you know, you probably could never have said, oh, I'm going to be running a trekking centre and a riding, you know, the way when your daughter first got that pony, but you know, it wouldn't have been there. But you just took this step, the next step, the next step, and you know, just worked towards this.
Yeah, I think it was having the lessons off Iona, because Iona gave me lessons weekly, and then as the years went on, she would back off and I would get her if I needed her and things like that. She helped me a lot with Sesky. And I think it was enjoying the lessons so much that I had with her that I then wanted to try and give other people the chance to ride, which I had got the chance to do with having my first horse. And that was the idea. I thought, I want to be like Iona and get my exams and become an instructor. And I just totally focused that that was the path I was going down. Again, not planning it just all I decided that's what I want to do. So, and then I could spread it with loads of people, which I did over all those years with the tourists and everything. It was just amazing.
Yeah, I mean, amazing. The way that I think you progressed, I mean, that's the bit that I, you know, just you love to hear the, you know, just your love of learning as well. That's the thing that comes out, I think, throughout the book. You just learn how to do this, or you don't know how to do that. I'll learn how to do that. And you're talking about the books, all your notes and your
And I still do that, because overall, all the time I do the book, I've got all these loads of notebooks. Although we done it all on screen and everything, I've got loads of notebooks because I always scribble things down and still keep it. So that's, it was just a big learning curve. But every time I done one exam, I was wanting to go on and do the next till I couldn't stop at one. I still rode all the time, and that was, I just worked everything around Sesky and the family.
And you got into then the kind of show jumping and the horse events as well. So I mean, as you were doing all this stuff for, then you were actually making a living, I suppose, and earning your living through. Because
when I done the riding school and the trekking, I thought, what better way than to work at something I really enjoy? And Sesky was my horse that I rode out in all the treks. It was phenomenal. But the show jumping and that I done in between at the very start, like the unaffiliated. And then because she was doing so well in that, Iona had said, why don't we affiliate her to the BSGA? And that was another big, huge challenge. So I wasn't never as brave, but I got a bit braver on her. So all that was just really, really good. And then the cross country kind of came in, but the dressage was just basic, real basic. Sesky didn't like that.
I suppose my kind of vision of the kind of dress is that kind of being very prancy then, isn't it? You know, that kind of notion of, you have to be very fancy, whereas the other things are a lot more
when they kind of go up the grades. But in the basic, the novice classes, it's just really on the way they go and their paces and everything. But as soon as Sesky went in the ring, she used to just shake her head and swish her tail as if I'm not for this.
So what do you think she loved most then? What,
do you know, I always say I should have done endurance riding with her, because Sesky could go for hours and hours, although you wouldn't ride her all day, but she never ever tired. And if I rode her first thing in the morning in the school and then took her out at night, she was always there with her ears up and ready to go. And even just up to that picture actually was in April 2018. She was 32 years old there, and that was only, I had to get her put down in the June 2018, so that's only a few months before she passed away. And I just came back that day from doing 8 miles trotting round the road with her, and she was still waiting to go into the field, into the school to have a canter. She was just super fit all her years. Never had any bother with her.
Yeah,
you know, the vet was only out for her jags, boosters, check the foals over. She was super. So she was, but super fit right up till like 5 weeks before she just went ill.
And that's a sad, definitely a sad part to to have. But 32 years, and I suppose so you'd had her 28 of them.
28 years, And I never, even when she just suddenly took ill, like they say, they never could. They done all the checks, could never make out what it was, and they finally came up with the assumption they thought maybe she had a cancer tumour that had just flared, unknown to us that she ever had anything wrong with her, and that's why she deteriorated so quick within the 4 to 5 weeks. But I would never, even when she was 32, there was no way in my mind that I was thinking of losing her. I would lose her even within 5 years. I still thought she would go forever.
Like, what is the kind of, is 32 still quite, is that quite old for a horse, or what?
Well, I think a lot of horses, especially that have done a lot of show jumping, and like Sesky was in work all the times, some of them may retire at 18, 19, or maybe younger, maybe 20, 21. So for her being 32 and still in full work, it was just totally unbelievable.
She was some horse.
Yeah.
And you mentioned their foals, because we've got, the story there were foals in there, and a lot of things you write so beautifully, describing them. I mean, Tsunami, what a name.
She was Sesky's first foal that she had before she came to me, she was called Gifty, and I thought, that is totally beautiful. And I always thought a perfect name for her foal, but it wasn't us, that was the lady that had her before us. And I always had in my mind I wanted to breed show jumpers for my daughter, for when she got on in the show jumping off ponies and things. So it was always on the cards that Sesky would have foals. And then as things turned on and the show jumping get more involved with the younger one, then I decided to put her into foal.
Sorry, just muting your brother.
So Tsunami actually came from, the stallion was Tornado. It was Gary Gillespie stallion, I think. Beth Gillespie name had him. And I'd watched him for months at the outdoor shows when he first came on the scene, and I really liked him and spoke with my daughter about it, and she liked him as well, which was important. And his nature balanced with Sesky. Because the first foal we had off Sesky, she was bred to a more livelier stallion, and it just, the foal didn't work out as it was a young one. It was up on its back legs and everything, so we had to watch with her. But when she had Tsunami, because the stallion was Tornado, we just decided what a super name. Until the next year when the big tsunami hit the ground and everyone, we were like, oh no. Because it was quite funny actually. I remember Sesky, whenever that tsunami storm hit the land, Sesky was just Tsunami was coming out as a show jumper that year. I think she was 5 years old. And it was quite funny because we were down, I don't think it was down south, wherever we were, at one of the shows, and Tsunami was getting in the ring, and they said her name's Tsunami, and this man turned around to me at the side of the ring and he said, that's disgraceful having your horse called that name because of Tsunami. And I thought, but she was called Tsunami 4 years ago. And he kept going on about it, and I said, it's all right, she'll probably wipe you out as well. And I thought, because he was really going on about the name I picked, and I thought, I had her called that 4 years ago. So that was quite a funny thing at the day. And I thought, that's it. It wasn't our fault.
Exactly. Definitely wasn't your fault. One of the things, because I'll just say to people, if you've got questions, please put them in the chat, and we'll actually come around and maybe get you to unmute your mic to ask the question yourself if we've got time, or I might ask Janette on your behalf. So the other thing that I found was actually quite emotional reading was you talking about separating the foals from the mother. So because you talked about obviously about Sesky and her foals, but also your chestnut, whose name escapes me at the moment, the other one that you'd written about.
Chester and Adonis.
Yes.
That was the year we did. Myself, my daughter decided that one of the show jumpers, Copper, had taken arthritis in the hock, so she couldn't be ridden, couldn't be jumped. So I had to come up with this great idea of having 2 foals at the same time, because Sesky wanted to keep having foals off her. So we had Chester, the chestnut one, and Adonis, and they were lovely. And the idea was to not get Sesky stressed out, because one of the times, that time they went off the yard, was I thought if the 2 mares go away, the 2 foals can go in together. So they were really good buddies in the field, and I thought that gives them a wee bit of company so they don't get stressed. And then I thought, as the time went on, I thought, oh no, now I need to separate these 2 foals. But it all worked out well in the end. But it was just to try and save each of them that bit of stress, because I used to love Sesky with the foals. And the foals, so
can I ask then, just a little question about why is it important then to separate the foal from the mother? What would happen if you didn't have separated them?
Some people don't separate the foals from the mothers. There is breeders that will keep them with them maybe to their 1 or maybe 1.5, 2. Each has got their own way of doing it if they're not going to do things with them. But because the foals were going to be bred to show jump, so we wanted them handled, and we didn't want them to use the mothers.
Yeah.
And then the thing is as well, I always wanted to get Sesky back into work to ride and things like that again, but it was just so they weren't getting too attached to the mothers all the time. They weren't really separated until 5 or 6 months,
right.
But the 2 colts were so boisterous, and Adonis used to climb on the back of Sesky all the time and jump up on her, so it was time he got separated. But it was just our way of doing it. Like, people do it different ways. I always found it the good way when they were about 6 months. They were big enough and strong enough and could look after themselves, and they were well on their way to being on their own to look after themselves and get started. So it was good.
And it's lovely, I think, that you've described the journey through Sesky's life with the foals, all the show jumping, all the development at your riding school, the trekking, everything that goes on. Is there a favourite time or a favourite memory that that you think, do you know what, that really sticks in my mind, or are there just so many?
There's so, I couldn't separate anything from the day I got Sesky to the day I lost her. Everything was just phenomenal. But the great times was, even though when I rode her out in the treks with all the tourists, she used to love being up the front of the ride or walking the trek to speak to the riders as the trek leaders took over and things. But the favourite time was when everything was finished, that Sesky and I would just go and have our own time riding, on our own, just down the countryside, through the fields, and that was my chill out time, and our time, as I always called it. Yeah. So it was important that I'd done that nearly every day. Sometimes I didn't do it every day, but ever since I started riding school, I said to myself, I would never give up my riding time with Sesky to run the business and things. Mm-hmm. And I stuck by that all the time that I had to ride her.
So that was first and foremost, she was your horse, and it was the two of you, and it was your and it was a friendship. That's absolutely what it was. It was a real friendship. It was.
And she was quite a character, even when I moved her eventually, when I moved as well and separated, and I moved Sesky over to Ingliston Country Club at Bishopton. And even in the riding school there in the indoors, every time the people came out of the restaurant down the side gallery wall, Sesky would automatically stop to get the attention, because she was so used to all the tourists patting her or going round the road. So, she was just incredible. She was.
I loved the descriptions that you gave about trying to get her into the horse boxes and the trailer, taking her away. You know,
that was unbelievable. The worst one ever that really sticks in my mind. Sesky was never one to load on. She was on the trailer once or twice. Then on the horse lorry, she would either go on or she would take off. And the one day she did it, she came out her stable looking $1 million, plaited up, immaculate, shining, all her nice boots and rug on. And we were going to the dressage show at Glen Eagles and the show jumping. So went to load, the pony was on the lorry, went to load her on the lorry, and she done her usual, pulled me right off the ramp, took off. And usually if you get a good hold of the rope and pulled her, you might get her back. But no, she took off, ripped the rope out my hand, ran through the wee courtyard, jumped the gate, right into the muddy field. And she just ran and splattered about. And I always remember she turned around in the middle of the field and she just looked with the ears up as if she'd a big smile and she'd done a big snort in the face. And then she just ran off bucking, and I was gutted. And if that wasn't bad enough, the kids were standing going, "Oh, yuck, mum." So that was just, and trying to get her clean in the back of the lorry at Glen Eagles was just not worth it. That was the worst time ever she done it to me. Plenty of times, but that was the worst.
Oh dear, yeah. Is it? I mean, it's like lots of fun and laughter.
I know. And yet other days she would come out and she would just walk straight on the lorry as if I'm on.
Yeah. And that whole thing about the lorry is that you know, that you actually now have your HGV license as well.
Yeah, I got my HGV license in 2006 because I went from a trailer to a small horse box and then to another 3-horse lorry. And then because my daughter was competing quite a lot of horses at the time, we would maybe take 3 horses to the show. And then if it was a local show, we would come back and drop the other 3 off and pick up the more experienced ones for the later classes. So sometimes we're doing double journeys, or as I said in the book, she might have picked what one she wanted to take. And then we got to the show and she thought, "Oh, I wish I took the other ones." So with the wee idea of having an HGV lorry put in front of me, if I passed my HGV, I thought, get me the book. And that's what I did. And I passed it first time.
That's what I was saying. No end to your talents, my dear. So you'll be okay for a job just now then, because I think they're still.
Oh, I know. That's it. If I ever get sacked for where I am, I've got my HGV lorry license. I have been offered jobs for that in the past, but I don't fancy sitting all the hours during the day. That'd be too boring for me.
No, when you've no horses in the back with you.
That's it.
But you've coped with, I think, so much, a lot of demands on your time. You're running the business. You had to change and adapt, you know, over the years with, you know, like letting go of staff when it was just became too much, changing the work. And really, I think you described that so well about how much I think you just take everything on. You just kind of take it on the chin and just keep going.
That's it. Because at the time with the riding school was getting so big. I mean, I think at one time I nearly 35 horses and ponies. And it wasn't the issue of looking after them, it was the staffing issue. And we'd live-in girls and all things. But as they kept going, I just found it hard to let the tourists down all the time, you know, with the book treks, then you didn't have the staff. And I couldn't be in 3 places at one. So the big idea came, I know what I'll do. I'll downsize, then I don't need anybody else. Do it myself without all the worry. So over years, I just kind of went to that. It was the easier thing to do and the best thing to do for the business as well. Yeah. And it meant that I was as the years went on, it meant that I was doing the treks early morning to mid-afternoon, and then I would do the riding school from like 3 o'clock till like 8 o'clock at night, and then have my time with Sesky early morning. But I was determined I wasn't going to, because of staffing issues, I wasn't going to have it fail, if you know what I mean, and not run properly. Yeah. So I think you've got to just adapt and with everything, and that's just the way how I kept going. So although I was downsizing, I was still given the opportunity to folk to ride and everything. Yeah. So it worked in well.
So if you look back now over, you know, all of those years, I hope that you're really proud of what you've achieved.
Oh, I'm totally delighted with my life. I wouldn't change anything. I've always thought that, you know, over the years that I did all the stuff and everything, I wouldn't change a thing. I'm in a different place in life the past few years, and I'm happy, absolutely delighted now too. But I don't think I've got any regrets with anything, the horses or anything. Life just went, and it was there to do what you want to try and do. And I just feel I just done everything that I wanted to do. And if things didn't work, then I had to change.
Yeah.
But I still think I'm that person I was all those years ago.
Well, I think that's probably something that we all do, isn't it? Like, you know, you look at, I mean, I look and we were chatting with my friend the other day, and you're thinking, oh, goodness me, you know, like I'm in their 50s now. And it's like, but you don't, you know, it's like, it goes in the blink of an eye. Almost. You don't really, you know, but, and writing your book, I think that's the thing. Writing your book was it a joy to actually go back through and relive those memories then, and just kind of go through that?
When I started writing it, I planned it for years and years. And Shaki, my partner, said to him way back in 2015, I had all my notes, as usual, all my notes for the training that I'd done with all the children. I had all that out on the table one day, and I said, one day I'm going to turn this into a book. And I never really realised then when I would do it, because I just kept not getting round to it. And when I lost Sesky, I decided I was going to write the book, because I couldn't have that at the end of Sesky. I thought, I don't want Sesky just being forgotten about. And then writing the book about her, obviously it means that she'll always be there. Nobody can ever take that away. And to me, it's not the end of her, you know, from when she passed away. It's like a beginning of a new chapter with her now. So, but writing the book, it was just, once I lost her, that made me determined that I didn't want it to be the end. And that's when I decided to write the book and incorporate some of the wee training tips at the end of it. But I loved doing it. And when I first started it, I thought, how will we go about this? And I thought the easiest place is just start right at the beginning. Well, that's my sister Edith joined us. I thought the easiest place is just start right at the beginning. And I done that. But I must say, I gave my son Michael a fright as the COVID, because in lockdown, I just totally focused on doing the book. And I would write my chapters out, and then I had to get the laptop and learn how to use that, because he said, you can't give them all written out in a notepad, Mum. But then I would write so many chapters, then I would type it all. But as COVID got really bad that 1st October, and there was a lot of deaths, I started panicking, and I thought, oh no, I thought I'm going to need to write this whole book. And I phoned up Michael one night, and I said to Michael, if anything happens to me, Michael, with COVID, my book will be written and you need to get it typed and published. And he's like, oh, thanks for that, Mum.
Well, thankfully, you've been here to know yourself and here to share the stories. And it's absolutely lovely that we get to find out. You're going to be continuing to talk about Sesky for a long time, and more people are going to find out about her that didn't before because of that. I just wanted to say there that Jen Wilson has said, what an inspiration and a great lesson for us all to drop the things that are causing us unnecessary stress. Absolutely. So I know that you're going to read a little bit of the book for us. So if you can get yourself ready for that.
I know.
Because I just wanted to kind of sum up before you do that, to say there's a little bit at the end of the book that you write about saying that what you believe you can achieve. That saying that you have.
Do you know, I was in way back 94 or 93 when I first started doing my training for my exams, and I was in a wee hardware shop getting notebooks, funny enough, and I seen this little sign. It was a wee silver sign, and it just had a wee red line round it, and it said on it, what you believe you can achieve. And I just looked at it, and it's kind of goldish in the back, and I thought, you know, that's absolutely true. And I bought it. It was only like £3.95 or something, and it sits in my writing folder, and it sat in all my training folders. And every time I was studying for the exams, I would look at that and I think, I'm going to do this. And I've always went off that sign, and I thought, how true a saying is that? Because if you just give up, then it's just like you would never get it done. And when I done Sesky's book, I thought, I don't want to go on this for years and years. So when I started it in lockdown, Sesky's birthday would have been the 16th of February, and that was my deadline to have the book finished. even if it wasn't totally the editing and all done, I wanted it done for the 16th, and the 2nd of February was the day I actually finished typing it all up. So I was like, done it.
That's it. Absolutely. That vision of this is what I'm going to do, and you absolutely embody that, you know, what you believe you can, because you have no doubt achieved an awful lot, you know, throughout your time with it, and it's just been, it's been a joy to see this. So let's hear you reading a little bit and then folks who have been trying to kind of unmute themselves to ask, you can ask a question. We'll get you round to asking some questions just after. So sorry, this is why you see when you unmute your mics, feedback. It wasn't you, Janette. It was just there was some mics unmuted, and then that's what happens. We get a bit of feedback. So so there we go. Let's.
It was really hard to pick a bit in the book, because every bit in the book I love, but this was, I think, Sesky and I's biggest accomplishment through all our riding, and this was Glenafrebrae's cross country, which I was never a cross country jumper. But Iona, my friend, took her around, it says in the book, like she rode on the course the year before, and then I decided I'm going to do this. And the picture in the book isn't Glenafrebrae's, it's a different one. So this is a little bit, I've got ready now. Sesky and I are ready to start Glenafrebrae's. The day before, right enough, when I walked it, I was sick all night. I thought, oh my goodness. So the bit in the book, it's page 53, actually. It says, on the day off Sesky and I went, body protector on, mounted on Sesky, I was ready. I had the horsepower, now I just needed to keep the nerves at bay. I think I must have shut my eyes at most of the jumps, or maybe it just felt like that. I had a good few wobbly ones around the course and a refusal or two at first, but I managed to stay on and kept going, jumping everything that was there. I must have had super glue on my saddle that day. I remembered that whole course all the way round, 4 miles and 25 jumping obstacles. We'd briefly almost got lost in the middle, but I felt finding our way was our biggest accomplishment to date. Coming up the hill, slope, and over the field, slightly out of the saddle, the wind was in my face and the rain dripping off my hat, but Sesky just seemed to pick up the pace. She felt so powerful, comfortable, and in control over this ground, and her jumping just seemed effortless. 2 minutes. Although the finish line could not come quickly enough for me. And then I go on to saying I was ecstatic with Sesky, and it was a wonder she did not run off with the amount of pats and hugs I gave her, along with my favourite words of good girl Sesky. When I eventually got off her, once we finished and got our breath back, I had the most jelly-like legs you could possibly imagine. Like just now.
Well done, well done.
Oh, that was a bit emotional.
Yeah.
But that was like a super day. Like it was the best thing I'd ever done on her and finished. But it was just like, wow, we did it.
Yeah.
I knew it would be hard to read out of the book.
But that, I think it just shows the depth of emotion and the love that you had for her and her for you too, no doubt.
I know.
Deborah's watching. Deborah wants to give you a hug. So
but no, it was a super day.
Well done. So now, folks, if somebody would like to ask, anybody got a question that they were, or something that they would like to ask? If you have, you can just, if you want to unmute yourself, we can hear you then. That's if someone's got you can chat, or you can put something in the chat box if you'd like me to ask a question on your behalf. We can do that.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's just water, it's not vodka.
Paul said that he's not easily impressed, but he's totally overawed by your story. So
oh, thank you. That's nice.
Yeah, and I think this is what I mean about, you know, this book is. You know, people who love horses will absolutely love this. My sister, you know, I think my sister is just that. Deborah's got a question. Oh, yeah. Why was that section so moving for you particularly?
I think it's that section was just one of her best days. But I think it's just reading the book, although like I totally love the book, it still brings that emotion back that she's not here.
Yeah.
But it was a really enjoyable day.
Yeah, so it was just, and the emotion of it, that just that kind of just taking you back to that time. It's just
yeah.
And it's lovely because then you can see her, I just see her smiling over your shoulder there, looking at you.
I know.
She's probably going, Mum.
I know. That's what she'd probably do. I know. But no, the whole book, like writing it, it was funny because writing the whole book, I was totally fine in writing it. But when I read over, before I gave it into use, and I was reading over it like that, I got quite emotional at bits because I thought, oh my God, like all that time ago just seems like yesterday, you know, and it's like 28 years ago. And I think that's what gets me emotional. But it was just, you go through different stages as you're reading it over and over, and with the editing and things, and you think, oh my God, I remember that, like as if I'd done it yesterday. And that was when I found, when I was writing the book, everything just came to my head, and I would wake up in the middle of the night and think, I need to go and add that in because that bit I never added in. And it was amazing the way the story just came. And then all my chapter headings just fell into place with what I was going to write next. And I used to hear authors, when you would hear them on radio interviews or on the news, and they would explain about how they wrote the book or how they would wake up in the middle of the night, and I would think that's not possible, but that's exactly what happened to me. And I'd run in about 3 o'clock in the morning and write like a page out, and I'm like, that's my next book, that's my next part for starting. So but it's just, I think it's just, I get emotional. I've been hard as anything about it, and then just sometimes like that I just kind of lose it for a minute, you know. So I promised myself I wasn't going to do that tonight. It's
amazing that it happens, and it's the love and the reminding yourself of those wonderful memories. And every time I look at, I can hear you saying, "Good girl, Sesky, good girl, Sesky," and that, because that was that was the thing all the time, wasn't it? But that was what she was to you, was that good girl, Sesky.
John's put up there, she is my big sister. John is my little brother that's down in Plymouth, I haven't seen for years. So I sent him the book as well, so he'll be having a read at it too.
And John, if you want to unmute your mic now, I know he's been asking. It wasn't just you. So here we go. I'll ask you. You can unmute if you want now. If you want to say something, it's absolutely fine. It was just when we've got lots of mics. If there's unmuted, then we get feedback and lots of noise going on. But there we are. Here you are, John. Would you like to say something to? Hi, John. Can you hear us?
Oh, that's Linda. Hi, Linda.
Hello.
Linda's the lady.
I'm loving your story.
Oh, thank you. Linda and I became acquainted when we were selling off Rosie, one of our novice show jumping ponies. Linda and her family, all her daughters, they came up and stayed the weekend to try Rosie out. I don't think they believed us that she was as good as we kept saying. We're like, she's an angel. And they came up and stayed and rode her about, and the kids went in the stable with her and everything. So Linda had Rosie for years after we had her, and she was one of Sesky's little friends as well in the yard. Hi.
And she was just beautiful. She was beautiful. We lost her a year ago, and it took... You know, it takes a long time to get over grief like that.
I know.
Beautiful.
But the time just goes, like, as I say, I couldn't believe, like, Sesky was like 32, like, you know, like she just always seemed like that 4-year-old when I got her, still full of mischief and cheeky, and right up to like when I stopped riding her. As I say, that was the May 2018. Like weeks before she passed away, and like she was just incredible.
Yeah. So what's next for you, Janette?
Well, regarding the book, we had the big book launch party on the 30th of October. I had that at Wards at Gartaharn, and it was just a totally amazing night. I went well out, a big dancey, sparkling floor and everything. It was a super night. And thanking everybody that was there, because everybody that bought the book, we raised £300 that night, and I donated the book sale money to Jenny's HTC fundraising on the GoFundMe, because she's a serious little lady that's been trying to get this operation. So to be quite honest, I was thinking of where to donate the money, and the vet school did cross my mind, because with losing a foal to grass sickness, I was always into all this with the vet school in Edinburgh. But I thought over all the years, they did a lot of money through the show jumpers and different things. And when I read Jenny's story one night, I was just sitting and I thought, that lady's got a dream that I had, and I donated her the money from it. So that was a real successful night. And then we had the book launch, fun celebration day at Balmahal last Saturday, where I hired the bouncy castles and the face painters for all the kids to come and enjoy. And I got my wee dig in that I might be doing my book next year as a children's book. So that's why I got the bouncy castle to get all the kids there. It was a great day. And Sesky sent us the sunshine. It was such a lovely day. Saturday, we've got this tonight. Saturday, I've got the book signing and sale day to meet the author day at my friend Leslie in her LA Continental Cafe over in Renfrew. So that's on from 12 o'clock to 4 o'clock this Saturday. And then on the 4th and 5th of December, I've got a book stall now, a stall to sell my books.
You've got to raise a hand if I want.
Down at the Loch Lomond Shores for the Christmas market. So looking forward to that. And then next year, I'm going to start writing my children's book. There's Sesky in it as well.
That's it. We'll just say there's no stopping you at all, Janette. So I think, John, do you have it? John. Oh, hi, John. Would you?
Hi,
John.
Linda.
Hi.
Hi. There's Linda. Hi. I was just saying about the cafe at the weekend.
Oh, hi, Janette. Hi. There's the coffee machine.
Yeah. Oh, she's in the cafe just now.
Yeah.
Hi.
My friends. That's Louise and Helen.
Hi. That's where we're doing the book sale at the weekend on Saturday. LA Continental in Renfrew.
Well, we'll look forward to that. So what I'm going to say, I'm going to stop the recording shortly. I just wanted to say congratulations. If everybody wants to unmute their mic just for a second, and we'll just have a big round of applause, and then we'll actually we'll stop the recording, and then you can have a little chat. So can we say congratulations, Janette?
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Well,